Billionaire husband told his wife he'd keep her and his mistress. When she said no, he laughed. "Walk away. You'll never survive a day without me." Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter's Stories, your own family story channel. Heavenly God, I humbly ask you to bless every woman with strength, dignity, and a heart full of love that inspires all around her. May they be honored, cherished, and deeply respected, for they are the pillars of families and the silent guardians of hope. Lord, I also pray especially for Binta as she undergoes her nose surgery. Please grant her complete healing, comfort, and peace. Protect her, guide the doctor's hands, and fill her with courage and strength. May her recovery be smooth, and may she feel your loving presence every step of the way. If your heart is true, like the video, if your love is real, right, I am with Mr. Peter. Brenton Johnson smiled like he'd just solved world hunger by suggesting Cara share him with another woman. The restaurant buzzed around them, crystal clinking, conversations humming low. Cara Young sat across from her husband of 15 years, watching his mouth move, hearing words that didn't make sense strung together the way he was stringing them. She'd negotiated million-dollar contracts with less cognitive dissonance than this moment was causing. "I've been thinking about us," Brenton said, cutting into his steak with the precision of a surgeon. "About growth, about evolution, about what modern marriage really means." Cara set down her wine glass carefully, deliberately. The Pinot Noir caught candlelight, deep red like a warning, like blood on white linen. Modern marriage. Exactly. Brenton leaned forward, eyes bright with something she couldn't name, enthusiasm masquerading as wisdom. "I love you. I do. But I also have feelings for Mariah, real, genuine feelings. And I've realized love isn't finite. It's abundant. We can all be happy if we just open our minds." The table next to them went quiet. Cara noticed the woman there, mid-40s, pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. Her fork had frozen halfway to her mouth. "Let me understand," Cara said, voice steady as steel. "You want to keep me as your wife and keep Mariah as your girlfriend at the same time, under the same arrangement?" "Yes." Brenton reached for her hand. She didn't pull away, just let her fingers lie there like dead fish, like evidence. "You're a businesswoman. You understand innovation. This is just innovation applied to relationships." Cara looked at him, really looked, at the man she'd loved since 27, the man she'd built a life with, bought a house for, supported through 5 job changes and a failed cryptocurrency podcast. This man, sitting here in a restaurant where she'd taken him for their anniversary because he forgot to make reservations, was telling her she should be grateful to share him, as if he were a prize instead of a liability. Something cracked in her chest, not her heart breaking. Something else. Something like chains falling away she hadn't known were there. "Does Mariah know about this plan?" "She's on board. She thinks you're amazing. Any woman who built a multi-million-dollar company deserves respect." "How generous of her." "Cara, please." Brenton squeezed her hand, his palm slightly damp. "I know this is a lot to process. I'm not asking for an answer tonight. Just think about it. We could make this work. I could have the stability and history with you, and the excitement and newness with her. You'd still have me. We'd still have our life." The woman at the next table stared openly now, her husband trying desperately to get her attention, failing. Cara started laughing. Not polite laughter, deep laughter from somewhere she'd been holding back for years. She laughed until tears came, until Brenton pulled his hand back, looking confused and slightly frightened. "What's funny?" he asked, voice tight. "You," Cara said, wiping her eyes with her napkin. "This whole thing. The sheer audacity. The fact that you genuinely think you're proposing something revolutionary instead of just being a cliché. That you brought me to Marcello's, where you proposed to me 16 years ago, to propose I share you with a woman wearing my grandmother's necklace." Brenton's face went pale. The color drained like someone pulled a plug. "How did you—" "Does Mariah know you can't work the washing machine? That you've never cooked a meal? That you need me to file your taxes every year? That you want two women because you've never stood on your own for a single day. You're being emotional. Kara stood, pulled off her wedding ring, held it to the light for a moment, then dropped it in his wineglass. It landed with a plunk red wine splashing like blood. Walk away, baby, watch me run. She left him sitting there, mouth open, wine dripping, left him with the check, the stairs, the wreckage. The valet brought her Tesla, midnight blue, bought with her own money. As she pulled out, her phone buzzed. Simone. Whatever happened at Marcello's is trending. You okay? Kara didn't answer yet. She had something more important to handle first. She drove home through streets that looked different, like she was seeing clearly for the first time in years. She'd built a business in this city, made a life here. For 15 years, she'd been orbiting Brenton like he was the sun. Not anymore. She pulled into the driveway of her house, bought before marriage, kept in her name because her mother taught her to have exit strategies. Every light was on, every window blazing like the house was on fire from inside. Her phone rang. Simone. Where are you? Home. What's happening? Mariah's at your house. I saw her car. Kara, she's moving in. Right now, while you were at dinner. Kara looked at her house. The house she'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford. Good, Kara said, and meant it. Good. She's about to learn about the difference between taking something and earning it. Inside, she could hear music. Beyoncé. Irreplaceable. The universe had a dark sense of humor. She walked up her steps, ready to teach the first lesson. You can't steal what was never his to give. Mariah stood in the living room, hanging pictures. Young, mid-20s, long dark hair, confident in that untested way. Oh, you're early. Brenton said you'd be out until 10. Kara set down her purse deliberately, studied the woman wearing her grandmother's necklace like costume jewelry. We need to talk. Sit down. Mariah's smile flickered. I don't understand. Brenton said, Brenton lies. Kara dialed her phone, put it on speaker. A lot. Elizabeth Harper. Harper Legal Services. Elizabeth, I need a notice to vacate. Someone's in my home without permission. How fast? Mariah went pale. 20 minutes, Kara. This is 4782 Maple Drive, solely in your name, purchased before marriage? Correct. I'll email it. Need police? Kara looked at Mariah in cashmere socks on floors Kara had refinished. Not yet. She ended the call. Brenton said this house was both of yours, Mariah whispered. Brenton says many things. Most are fantasies he's mistaken for facts. Kara walked to the window. Let me guess. He said he's the breadwinner, that he supported my little business. Mariah's silence confirmed it. My company is worth $2.3 million, 42 employees, 6 state contracts. Brenton makes $92,000 at a job where he's been passed over for promotion 5 times. I made his annual salary in my first quarter. Alone. Kara turned. That necklace? My grandmother's. Victorian sapphire, worth $12,000. She gave it to me on her deathbed. It disappeared 8 months ago. I asked Brenton. He said I misplaced it. Mariah's hand flew to her throat. He gave it to me for my birthday. Said he bought it at an estate sale. He's a liar. Now you know. Kara checked her phone. 20 minutes. Pack what you brought. Leave everything else, including that robe you're eyeing. I bought it in Barcelona. Where do I go? Not my problem. Adult choices, adult consequences. Mariah started crying, mascara running in black rivers. I loved him. I thought he loved me. He loves himself. Everyone else is just an accessory. You were supposed to make him feel young. I was supposed to make him feel successful. Neither of us were people to him. The door burst open. Brenton, breathing hard, tie loose, hair wild. Kara, wait, let's talk. Nothing to talk about. You can't kick Mariah out. She has nowhere to go. She can go where you're going. Neither of you stays here. Brenton stepped inside, trying to summon authority. This is my house too. 15 years. Wrong. You stayed here 15 years, like a guest who never left. Kara showed her phone. Property deed, my name, purchased May 2010, 3 months before marriage. You lived rent-free for 15 years. She watched reality hit him hard. I contributed. I paid bills. 18% of household expenses. I have spreadsheets. You can't tell me our mortgage payment. You don't know our property taxes. You've never called a plumber. You lived here like a child in his mother's house, oblivious and entitled. Brenton's phone rang. He looked at the screen, went white. Your mother? He didn't answer. I called her driving home, told her everything, about Mariah, your proposal, the necklace. She wanted to speak with you immediately. You had no right. Every right. She's been a mother to me 15 years. She deserved to know her son steals family heirlooms for his mistress. Mariah gasped. Baby. Brenton turned to her. I can explain. Don't call me baby, this is insane. Mariah looked at Kara. Keep the necklace. I want none of this. She ran upstairs, footsteps frantic overhead. Brenton stood lost. We can fix this. 15 years means something. It meant everything. Past tense. You killed it tonight. I'm just burying it before it starts to smell. Mariah came down with bags, moving fast. Where are you going? Brenton called. Away from you. At the door she turned. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Yes, you did, Kara said, not cruelly. You just didn't want to know. Mariah left. Silence filled the house. I'll get my things, Brenton said finally. Gone by tomorrow. After that, locks change. He went upstairs. Kara sat on her couch. Her house, her life, suddenly completely hers. She waited for tears, regret, doubt. Nothing came. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A file transfer. You deserve to know everything. She opened it. Videos, dozens. Brenton and Mariah at restaurants, hotels, a lake house, timestamps going back months. But the audio files made her blood freeze. Brenton's voice. She's so focused on work she doesn't notice when I'm gone. Kara's great but not fun anymore. All work, no play. I married a businesswoman when I wanted a wife. Male laughter. His friends, Gerald and Tyler, encouraging, normalizing, celebrating his betrayal like entertainment. Kara sat in darkness, listening to her husband describe their marriage like prison, his friends cheering him on. Upstairs, Brenton packed, drawers opening, closing, the sound of a life being dismantled. She saved every file, cloud storage, external drive, phone, 3 copies, like any good data plan. Then she emailed her lawyer. Ready to file, I have evidence. Tomorrow she'd start the legal dismantling. Tomorrow she'd systematically take apart a marriage dead longer than she'd admitted. Tonight she sat with truth and felt something new. Freedom. Chapter 2. The Queen moves out. Mariah Brown learned Tuesday evening. Never underestimate a woman who paid for the house you're stealing. Kara woke Wednesday in her guest bedroom. Sleeping in the bed she'd shared with Brenton felt wrong in ways she didn't want to examine. Sun came through unfamiliar windows at strange angles. Everything felt different. 17 missed calls from Brenton, 6 unknown numbers, 1 from her mother, deleted without listening. Her mother had opinions about divorce Kara didn't need. Text from Simone. Coffee, my place. 1 hour, non-negotiable. Kara showered, dressed in work clothes even though it was her day off. Armor came in many forms. Today, she needed professional competence wrapped around her. At Simone's Pearl District apartment, her friend handed her coffee before she'd crossed the threshold. You look okay for someone whose marriage exploded yesterday. I feel okay. Kara sat on the expensive couch. Is that strange? Only if you're lying to yourself, are you? I keep waiting to fall apart. Instead, I feel light, like I put down something heavy I'd been carrying so long I forgot it wasn't part of me. That's called relief, honey. Welcome to the other side. They drank in comfortable silence. What's your plan? Simone asked. Divorce, obviously. Kara set down her cup. But I found something. Someone sent files, videos, audio of Brenton with Mariah and his friends. They talked about me like I was the problem. Someone sent evidence? Who? Anonymous email. But look at these. Kara showed timestamps. Gerald's lake house. You remember Gerald? Came to my birthday, made that toast about what a great couple we were? Simone's face hardened. Gerald, who smiled in your face, knowing everything? That one. What are you doing? Kara smiled. Not nicely. Having a conversation with Gerald about betrayal's cost. 2 hours later, Kara walked into Thompson Realty. Gerald sat behind glass, pretending to work, probably looking at vacation homes he couldn't afford. He looked up. Surprise, guilt, forced friendliness. Kara, what brings you here? Property shopping. I hear you specialize in lake houses. Gerald's smile faltered slightly. I do. Looking for something specific? Actually, yes. The property next to yours. 849 Lakeview Drive. It's for sale. She watched him process, watched him realize she knew about his lake house, about the parties, everything. Great property. Needs work, though. I'm not afraid of work. I've been rebuilding things other people destroyed for years. Kara sat uninvited. I'm thinking rental property, corporate retreats, team building, places where people build trust and loyalty. Ironic, isn't it? Gerald cleared his throat. Interesting concept. I'll need boundary surveys. Make sure I know where my property ends and yours begins. Sometimes people build structures crossing property lines, decks, fire pits, that sort of thing. Color drained from his face. His deck absolutely crossed the line. She checked this morning. Kara, I know why you're here. Do you? I'm sorry about Brenton, about not telling you. I should have said something. You should have done many things. You should have been a friend. Instead, you were an accessory to betrayal. You hosted their affair at your lake house, took pictures like it was entertainment, came to my home, ate my food, smiled while knowing everything. It wasn't my place to interfere in someone's marriage. You were already involved. You made a choice. You just made the wrong one. Kara stood. I'm buying that property. My lawyer will contact you about boundary issues. And Gerald? Next time you think about betraying someone for entertainment, remember this conversation. Remember that consequences don't always come when you expect them. She left him looking like his professional life just flashed before his eyes. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Kara Young? A young woman's voice. Who's asking? Mariah, please don't hang up. Kara sat in her car, keys in ignition, debating. 2 minutes. I know you don't owe me anything, but I need you to know something. Mariah's voice cracked. Everything Brenton said was lies. About you, him, our future. I'm 26. I work retail. I thought I'd met someone successful who loved me. Instead, I met a liar who used me to feel important. What do you want? Sympathy? No, I want to help. Mariah took a breath. He's planning something. I heard him with his lawyer yesterday, some cousin who does family law. They're claiming your business is marital property, that he deserves half because he supported you emotionally while you built it. Kara laughed, sharp and humorless. He can try. There's more. He's telling people you had an affair, that he caught you with someone. He's building a narrative where he's the victim. Did he ask you to lie? Silence. Mariah. Did he? Yes, she whispered. He wanted me to say I saw you with another man, gave me details to make it sound real, said he'd pay $5,000 if I testified. And what did you say? No, I'm many things, but not that. Mariah's voice strengthened. I'm sorry, but I won't help him destroy you. You didn't deserve this. Kara sat with that. Send me everything. Every text where he asked you to lie, every conversation, every detail of his plan. You're not coming after me legally? You're 26 and stupid. I was young once, just not stupid enough to believe a married man's lies. Kara started her car. But Mariah, get out of retail. Build something for yourself, because men like Brenton target women without power. Don't be an easy target. She ended the call. Text from Simone. Lunch. News about Tyler's wife. Kara smiled. Tyler, Brenton's other friend from those audio recordings. She texted, "Pearl Street Cafe, tell me everything." Simone was vibrating with gossip when Kara arrived. "Tyler's wife filed this morning. She saw videos online from your restaurant scene, started asking questions. Tyler confessed everything. He'd been covering for Brenton for months." "Good. There's more. She's taking the kids to California. Tyler's staying with Gerald because she kicked him out. 2 grown men, both complicit, now roommates because their lives fell apart." "What goes around comes around," Kara said. "Eventually." Simone ordered salads and wine. "Next move? Let my lawyer handle it. Use every piece of evidence. Make sure Brenton understands what he lost." "And then?" Kara looked at the city through the window. "Then I live, really live, not just exist in someone's shadow." Her phone buzzed. Email from an unknown address. Subject: "More evidence you need." Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, all showing Brenton's expense claims that didn't match reality. Hotel rooms on weekends charged as business, meals for 2 as client dinners, mileage that didn't match his calendar. One line of text: "He's been stealing from Palmer Tech for years. Thought you should know before he claims he needs your money." "A friend," Kara forwarded it to her lawyer. "Add this, and make sure his company sees it." Simone watched knowingly. "You're not just divorcing him, you're destroying him." "No, I'm removing safety nets he's used to avoid consequences his entire life. What happens after is his own doing." They finished lunch. Kara drove home to her house, her life finally hers. Brenton sat on her front steps, duffel bag beside him. "I need to talk." "5 minutes. I made a mistake. Huge. But we can fix this. 15 years is worth fighting for." "You didn't fight for it. You gave it away for a 26-year-old retail worker." "I was confused. Midlife crisis or something. But I love you. Always have." Kara looked at him, saw nothing she recognized. "You don't know what love is. You know need, convenience, comfort. But love? Love doesn't steal heirlooms, doesn't lie for months, doesn't propose sharing your partner like a timeshare. Please, another chance." "No." She walked to her door. "Get your things by tomorrow. After that, anything left is mine. I'll donate it to charity. You'll regret this." Kara turned, looked him dead in the eye. "The only thing I regret is wasting 15 years on someone who never deserved them." Inside, she locked the door, poured wine, sat in her quiet house. Tomorrow, her lawyer would file. Tomorrow the real battle would begin. But tonight she planned her next move. Because Kara Young wasn't just getting divorced, she was getting free. Chapter 3. The company knows Kara Young walked into Palmer Technologies' holiday party like she owned the place, which was fitting since her company had been courted by theirs for years. The invitation arrived before her life exploded. Palmer Technologies' annual gala. Black tie. Spouses welcome. She'd almost declined, then listened to those audio files again and changed her mind. She arrived alone, heads turned. Brenton had worked at Palmer 6 years. Kara had attended every function, smiled through every team-building event with people who'd apparently known about his affair. The ballroom glittered. Lights, expensive dresses, open bars. Kara wore black, simple and devastating, with her grandmother's necklace back where it belonged. "Kara," Jennifer from accounting appeared, nervous. "We didn't expect you. Is Brenton here?" "No, we're separating." Jennifer's face did something complicated. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know things were difficult." "Didn't you?" Sharp. Jennifer's smile faltered. "I should find my husband." She disappeared into the crowd. Kara moved with purpose. She knew her target. Richard Palmer stood near the bar with executives. Mid-50s, silver-haired, built a company through innovation and ruthlessness. He saw Kara approaching, expression shifting. "Kara, pleasant surprise. I thought you'd skip tonight given circumstances." "What circumstances?" Richard cleared his throat. "I understand you and Brenton are having difficulties." "Interesting. He told me 4 days ago. How long have you known?" Executives around Richard found their drinks fascinating. I don't understand. Simple question, Kara said, voice carrying just enough. My husband had an 8-month affair. They were seen at company events, restaurants near this office. How long did his employer know about a relationship that could constitute conflict of interest, and did anyone think to tell his wife? People stared, phones probably recording. We don't involve ourselves in personal lives, Richard said stiffly, except when they impact job performance. Brenton's been passed over 5 times. Reviews are mediocre. Was that because he was distracted by an affair everyone knew about, or was the affair compensation for professional failure? You should leave. I should ask questions, under oath if necessary. I'm sure my divorce attorney would love knowing whether Palmer Technologies enabled my husband's infidelity. Richard leaned in, threatening. Are you seriously threatening me at my party? I'm asking questions. You know who I am, Mr. Palmer. You've spent 2 years trying to land a contract with Apex Consulting. We streamlined Morrison Industries, turned around Davidson Group. Every tech company here wants to work with us. She watched him remember. Small world, isn't it? Your proposal 3 months ago was comprehensive, expensive. My team was impressed, was being operative. I'll note in our rejection that we prefer companies valuing integrity. She walked away while he processed. Near desserts, she found Jamaica Thompson, Brenton's co-worker, kind eyes and anxious energy. Can we talk? Jamaica looked like she might cry. I tried to tell you months ago. Saw them at lunch, drove by your house 3 times. Couldn't figure out how to destroy your life. So you said nothing. I'm sorry, I was a coward. They moved to a quiet corner. I need everything you know, not about the affair, about Brenton's work, expense reports, travel, anything irregular. Jamaica hesitated. Why? I'm building a case and need leverage. Deep down, you want to do the right thing. That's why you tried before. Tell me now. Jamaica drank wine, pulled out her phone. He's been padding expense reports for years. 100 here, 200 there, meals that didn't happen. Hotels claimed for business but used personally. Probably 30,000 over 5 years. Why didn't you report it? Not my department, not my business. Didn't want to destroy someone's career. Jamaica looked up fierce. But he destroyed his own career, his marriage. He doesn't get to keep skating while good people cover for him. Can you document it? I can get copies, receipts that don't match. My friend in accounting has been nervous for years. Kara touched her arm. Thank you for trying before, for helping now. What will you do? Make sure he can't claim I took everything. He'll face what he did, all of it. They exchanged numbers. Jamaica promised files by tomorrow. Kara left early, but not before one more stop. Richard Palmer near the exit saying goodbyes. Mr. Palmer, one thing, that proposal, I'm not rejecting it because of personal issues. I'm rejecting it because your numbers don't work and your timeline's unrealistic. We don't make emotional business decisions at Apex. We make profitable ones. But I appreciate the additional reason to feel good about our choice. She walked into cold December night, leaving behind people who'd talk about this for weeks. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo. Brenton and Mariah, months ago, at a lake house. Gerald's place. Text below. Gerald Thompson, 847 Lakeview Drive. Thought you should know where parties happened. Kara saved the address. Another text from Jamaica. Check email. Sent what I could access. More coming. 6 files. Expense reports with highlighted discrepancies. Calendar entries that didn't match. Receipts telling different stories. She forwarded everything to her lawyer. Ammunition. Use wisely. Then drove home through streets feeling less heavy. An envelope was taped to her door. No return address. Inside, handwritten note on expensive stationery. Mrs. Young, I'm General Counsel at Palmer Technologies. We need to discuss your husband's employment. Certain irregularities require investigation. Your discretion appreciated. Sarah Mitchell, 503-555-0147. Kara smiled. Walls were closing in on Brenton. He didn't know yet. Inside, she poured wine, called her lawyer. Elizabeth, it's Kara. Hope you're sitting down. We need to add corporate fraud to our filing. I'm listening. For an hour, Kara laid out everything. Expense reports, affair expenses on company cards, pattern of deception going back years. This is more than divorce material, Elizabeth said. This could be criminal. I know, but I want it strategic. He'll claim he needs my support because he can't work. I want the court knowing why he can't work. Because he got himself fired for stealing. You're playing hardball. He played games with my life for years. Now it's my turn. Difference is I'm better at it. They talked strategy, timeline, how to present evidence without looking vindictive while ensuring everyone understood exactly who Brenton Johnson was. Past midnight when Kara hung up. She sat in her quiet house, her life alone, felt something close to satisfaction. Tomorrow she'd call Sarah Mitchell. Tomorrow she'd continue building the case, ensuring Brenton got exactly what he deserved. Nothing. Her phone buzzed. Simone, saw party videos. Everyone's calling you Ice Queen. You okay with that? Kara texted back, Ice Queen works. Ice doesn't melt, it cuts. She went to bed in her guest room, her house, her life finally moving forward instead of standing still. For the first time in 15 years, she slept through the night without waking once. Chapter 4. Mama Sees the Truth. Joyce Johnson had spent 63 years believing love could fix anything, but the woman on her porch at 8 a.m. looked ready to prove that theory catastrophically wrong. Come inside, Joyce said, opening her door wider. No need to sit in the cold. I'm deciding if this conversation is worth having. Joyce sat beside her despite protesting joints, despite dew soaking her robe. If Kara drove across town at dawn, something important was happening. If it wasn't worth having, you wouldn't be here. Silence, watching the neighborhood wake. Dogs walked, joggers passing. Did Brenton send you? Joyce asked. He doesn't know I'm here. He's at Tyler's, probably crying about how unfair I'm being. Are you being unfair? Kara looked at her then, and Joyce saw something in those eyes that made her chest hurt. Not anger, not pain, just tired certainty from being disappointed too many times. Let me show you something. For 20 minutes Joyce watched. Videos of her son with another woman. Audio of him mocking his wife to friends, describing their marriage like prison. Bank statements showing money on hotels, dinners, gifts. Timeline of an affair stretching back further than anyone admitted. Then, Kara showed something else. Expense reports from Palmer Technologies. Fraudulent claims. Meals that didn't happen. Hotels for trips never taken. Mileage not matching calendars. Small thefts adding up over years. He's been stealing from his company, Kara said quietly. Not huge amounts, but consistently, for years. Joyce felt something crack inside, not break. She'd survived worse. Her husband leaving when Brenton was 10, raising a son alone on barely enough teacher's salary, watching that son grow into a man who sometimes looked at her with his father's entitled eyes. I knew, she said. Kara turned, surprised. Not about stealing, not the affair specifically, but about what he was, who he was becoming. Joyce stared at her hands, age spots and wrinkles. His father was the same, charming, always had excuses. I thought if I loved Brenton enough, taught him better, he'd be different. You can't love someone into being good. No, you can't. Joyce stood, knees protesting. Come inside, coffee, then you tell me what you need. In the kitchen, Joyce made coffee the old way. Percolator her mother gave her. Smell filled the space, familiar and grounding. I don't need anything, Kara said, accepting the mug. I came to tell you what I'm doing, because you've been good to me. You deserve to know. I'm listening. I'm filing for divorce, making sure Brenton gets nothing from my business, nothing from my house, nothing from the life I built. I have evidence of his affair, lying, financial crimes. I'm using all of it. Joyce poured coffee, added sugar to both, cream to Kara's the way she'd learned over 15 years of Sunday dinners. You want my blessing? I want you to know I'm not trying to hurt you, but I am going to hurt him. Joyce sat across from Kara, wrapped hands around the mug, let heat burn her palms. When Brenton was 7, he broke a neighbor's window playing baseball. Instead of truth, he blamed another boy. I knew he was lying, could see it on his face. But I paid for the window, told him everyone makes mistakes. She sipped coffee. When he was 12, he stole from my purse, 20 here, 40 there. I noticed, said nothing, told myself he'd grow out of it. Another sip. When he was 16, I caught him cheating on his girlfriend. He cried, promised it would never happen again. I believed him because I wanted to, because his father left, and I thought maybe if I just loved him enough, he'd become a man who didn't need to lie and cheat and steal. Kara waited. I made him who he is, Joyce said finally. Every time I made excuses, every time I covered for him, every time I chose comfort over truth, I created a man who thinks consequences are optional. You loved your son, that's not a crime. Love without accountability is just enablement wearing a prettier name. Joyce reached across, took Kara's hands. You do what you need. Destroy him if necessary. Maybe that's the only thing that will save him. I'm not trying to save him. I know, but maybe consequences will do what love never could. They drank coffee in silence. Outside, sun burned off mist. He's my son, Joyce finally said. I'll always love him, but I'm ashamed of him, and I'm sorry you were collateral damage in my failure to raise him right. You didn't fail, he did. We both know that's not entirely true. Kara's phone buzzed, expression hardening. What is it? Brenton's lawyer, his cousin Daniel, filing countersuit, claiming my business is marital property, says he's entitled to half because he supported me emotionally. Joyce stood, decision made. Give me your lawyer's number. Why? I'm going to testify. For you. Against my son. I'll tell the truth about who he is, what he's done, how I enabled him. If they want ugly, I'll show them ugly going back to childhood. Kara stared. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I've been making the wrong choice for 42 years. Time I made the right one. She walked to her bedroom, returned with a box. Letters, cards, old bank statements. Every time I bailed Brenton out, every time I paid his bills when he overspent, every bad check I covered, all documented. I'm a teacher. I keep records. She handed Kara the box. Use it, all of it. Make him face what he is. Maybe on the other side of losing everything, he'll finally become someone worth being. Kara took the box, eyes bright. Thank you. Don't thank me. I should have done this 30 years ago. They heard a car, both tensed. That's him, Joyce said. I called before you arrived, told him to come. I set this up. You planned this. I told you, I'm done making the wrong choice. Brenton came through the door looking exhausted, unshaven, hollow. He saw Kara and froze. Mum, what's happening? Joyce stood between them, small but immovable. Sit down. We need to talk. If this is an intervention, this is a reckoning. Sit. He sat, looking between his mother and wife, like watching his world crumble. For an hour, Joyce Johnson told her son exactly who he was. Every lie she'd covered, every excuse she'd made, every moment she'd failed him by protecting him from consequences, laid out his life like evidence at a crime scene. Kara sat silent, witness to a mother choosing truth over comfortable lies. By the end, Brenton was crying, real tears from having illusions stripped away. I didn't mean for this to happen. Yes, you did, Joyce replied, gentle but firm. You just didn't mean to get caught. There's a difference between regret and remorse. Regret is wishing you hadn't been caught. Remorse is wishing you hadn't done it. Right now, I'm not sure which you're feeling. She walked to the door, opened it. You're not welcome here until you become someone who deserves to be welcome. That might be months, years, never. But I'm done pretending you're something you're not. Mum, please, go! Brenton looked at Kara like she might save him. She looked back with eyes holding no rescue. He left. Joyce sagged against the door. Kara stood, started to speak, stopped. I'll testify, Joyce said again. Whatever you need. I owe you 15 years of honesty I didn't give. This is a start. Kara left with the box and understanding that some families break for good reasons, that some love has to be tough enough to let people fall. She drove away knowing she hadn't just lost a husband, she'd lost a mother-in-law who'd become more family than her own mother, but sometimes you have to lose everything false to find what's real. Her phone buzzed. Text from her lawyer. Court date set, 2 weeks, ready? Kara looked at the box beside her, evidence of a lifetime avoiding consequences. She texted back, born ready. Chapter 5. The Courtroom Massacre. The judge looked like she'd heard every lie the world had to offer and wasn't interested in adding more to her collection. Your Honor, Daniel Foster stood, all cheap suit and cheaper confidence. My client seeks equitable distribution of marital assets, including 50% ownership of Apex Consulting, built during marriage with his emotional and financial support. Kara sat next to Elizabeth Harper, wearing navy blue and certainty. Across the aisle, Brenton stared at the table. Judge Rebecca Walsh glanced at notes. Mid-50s, reputation for fairness, but ruthless with time wasters. Ms. Harper, your response? Elizabeth stood with the calm of someone holding all the aces. Your Honor, we'll demonstrate Mr. Johnson not only provided no support, but actively undermined the business while engaging in marital infidelity and corporate fraud. We have extensive documentation. Daniel scoffed. Your Honor, personal life has no bearing on property distribution in a no-fault state. Your client's infidelity demonstrates moral character relevant to credibility, Elizabeth countered. But we'll start with financials. May I approach? Judge Walsh nodded. Elizabeth handed over 3 thick folders. Exhibit A. Complete financial records for Apex Consulting from inception to present. You'll note the business started using Ms. Young's premarital savings of $43,000, operated entirely under her management, received 0 capital contribution from Mr. Johnson. She placed another folder on the bench. Exhibit B. Joint tax returns for 15 years. Ms. Young's income consistently exceeded her husband's by a factor of 3 to 1. In 2019, Mr. Johnson earned $92,000. Ms. Young earned $407,000. Daniel stood quickly. Income during marriage is irrelevant. Sit down, counselor, Judge Walsh said mildly. Let her finish. Elizabeth allowed herself a ghost of a smile. Exhibit C, household expense records. Ms. Young paid 82% of all household costs, including mortgage on the home she purchased before marriage, which remains solely in her name. A few quiet laughs from the gallery. So she made more money, Daniel said. That doesn't mean my client didn't support her emotionally. Interesting word choice. Support. Elizabeth turned to the courtroom. Let's discuss this support. May I call my first witness? Proceed. I call Joyce Johnson to the stand. The shock was physical. Brenton half stood. Daniel grabbed his arm, pulling him down. Joyce walked to the stand in her Sunday clothes, dignified woman who'd spent 40 years teaching middle school English. After being sworn in, Elizabeth approached respectfully. Mrs. Johnson, you're the defendant's mother. Yes. You've known Ms. Young how long? 15 years. Since she and Brenton started dating. In that time, did you observe their relationship closely? Yes. Sunday dinner at my house almost every week for 15 years. What kind of support did Mr. Johnson provide for his wife's business? Joyce took a breath, looked directly at her son. None. He complained constantly, said it took too much of her time, called it her little hobby, even when it made more money than he'd ever earn, told her she was selfish for working late when he wanted her home. Daniel shot up. Objection. Hearsay. This testimony goes directly to the marital relationship and the support provided, Elizabeth said. I'll allow it. Continue. Brenton resented Kara's success from the beginning, Joyce continued, voice steady. He wanted a wife who'd make him feel important. Instead, he married a woman more successful, more driven, more capable than him in every way. It ate at him. He'd come to my house complaining she thought her business was more important than their marriage, that she was always working, that he might as well be single. Did he express this resentment directly? Many times. He told me she was controlling, that she held money over his head, made him feel small. What he really meant was her success made him feel inadequate, and instead of rising to meet her level, he tore her down. Kara watched Brenton's face crumble. "Mrs. Johnson, why are you testifying against your son?" Joyce looked at the judge. "Because for 42 years I've made excuses for him, covered his mistakes, bailed him out of trouble, enabled his worst behaviors because I loved him and thought love meant protecting him from consequences. All I did was create a man who thinks he doesn't have to face the results of his actions. I'm here because someone needs to tell the truth. If it costs me my relationship with my son, that's the price I pay for spending 4 decades teaching him consequences were optional." Complete silence. No further questions. Daniel declined to cross-examine. Elizabeth called her next witness, Jamaica Thompson. Jamaica took the stand, nervous but determined. "Ms. Thompson, you work with Mr. Johnson at Palmer Technologies?" "I did. He was terminated last week." Brenton's head snapped up, apparently news to him. "Can you tell the court about your work relationship?" "We were colleagues 6 years. I'm senior project manager. Brenton was in business development." "Did you observe anything unusual about his expense reports?" "Objection," Daniel on his feet. "Irrelevant and potentially privileged." "This goes directly to Mr. Johnson's claim he needs financial support," Elizabeth said. "His earning capacity and unemployment reasons are relevant." Judge Walsh leaned forward. "I'll allow it, but make your point quickly." Jamaica pulled out a folder. "Mr. Johnson falsified expense reports for years, claiming meals that didn't happen. Hotels for business trips, actually personal vacations with his girlfriend. Mileage not matching calendar or projects. I noticed because he'd submit expenses for days I knew he was on vacation." She handed the folder to the bailiff. "We estimate he stole approximately $31,000 from Palmer Technologies over 5 years. The judge's expression turned granite. "Mr. Johnson, are you facing criminal charges for these allegations?" Daniel whispered frantically. "I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination," Brenton said quietly. Judge Walsh made a note. "Noted. Continue." "Your Honor, we'd also like to enter evidence of Mr. Johnson's affair, not for punishment, but for financial impact on marital assets." Elizabeth presented bank statements. Charges to luxury hotels, jewelry, 6 months' rent for an apartment in the Pearl District, totaling $127,000. All from joint accounts and credit cards in Ms. Young's name, used without her knowledge while Mr. Johnson told his wife they needed to cut back on expenses. She let that sink in. Additionally, Mr. Johnson filed a counterclaim alleging Ms. Young engaged in an affair. We'd like to address that directly. Judge Walsh nodded. "We have a signed affidavit from Mariah Brown, the woman with whom Mr. Johnson had his affair." Elizabeth handed over the document. She states Mr. Johnson explicitly asked her to fabricate evidence of Ms. Young's supposed infidelity. He provided the name of a man to claim she saw with Ms. Young, gave specific details, promised $5,000 if she testified. Ms. Brown refused and provided text messages confirming Mr. Johnson's requests to commit perjury. The judge looked at Brenton with disgust. "Mr. Johnson, did you attempt to suborn perjury in these proceedings?" Brenton looked at his lawyer desperately. "I invoke my Fifth Amendment." "I've heard enough." Judge Walsh cut him off. "Here's my ruling, and I want no confusion." She flipped through notes. "Ms. Young retains 100% ownership of Apex Consulting. The business was started with pre-marital funds, operated entirely by her, built through her efforts, received no meaningful contribution from Mr. Johnson. Based on testimony from his own mother, he actively undermined it. No rational court would award him ownership of something he tried to destroy." Daniel started to object. The judge held up one finger. "The marital home at 4782 Maple Drive remains Ms. Young's separate property, purchased prior to marriage, titled solely in her name, maintained primarily through her income." Mr. Johnson has no claim. She continued. Joint savings will be divided equally, minus $127,000 Mr. Johnson spent on his affair. That amount will be deducted entirely from his share as marital waste. He doesn't get to steal marital funds for his girlfriend, then claim those funds should be split equally. Daniel stood. Your Honor, that's punitive. That's consequence, Counselor. Sit down. He sat. I'm sanctioning you personally, Mr. Foster, $5,000 for bringing forth allegations you knew or should have known were fabricated. You'll also pay Ms. Young's attorney fees related to defending against that claim. Consider yourself lucky I'm not reporting you to the Bar Association, though I reserve the right. Daniel went pale. As for Mr. Johnson, I'm forwarding evidence of expense report fraud and attempted perjury to the District Attorney's Office. Whether they prosecute is their decision, but this court won't ignore criminal activity presented during proceedings. She banged her gavel hard enough to echo. Divorce granted. Ms. Young, you're free to build whatever life you want. Mr. Johnson, you're free to figure out how to support yourself for the first time in your adult life. Court is adjourned. Kara stood, feeling lighter than she had in years. Elizabeth packed materials, satisfied. That went better than expected. What happens now? Now we wait for the written order, ready in a week. You're officially divorced, but there's always paperwork. Elizabeth smiled. But you're free, Kara. Completely free. Outside, Joyce waited on the steps. I'm proud of you, she said simply. For what? Destroying your relationship with your son. For being strong enough to demand what you deserve. I should have taught Brenton that lesson 40 years ago. Maybe if I had, you wouldn't have had to teach it now. They hugged, brief but meaningful. Will you still come to Sunday dinners? Joyce asked. If you'll still have me. You were always more daughter than daughter-in-law. That doesn't change because my son was too stupid to appreciate what he had. Kara drove home through streets that felt different. Free streets. Streets that didn't have to factor anyone else into every decision. Simone waited on her porch with champagne. I saw the news. You're trending. Ice Queen destroys cheating husband in court. They're making memes. Are they flattering? They're calling you a legend. How does it feel? Kara thought about that while Simone poured champagne into coffee mugs. It feels like the first day of the rest of my life. They drank on the porch, watching the sunset over a city full of possibility. For the first time in 15 years, Kara Young felt like herself again, completely, totally, unapologetically herself. Chapter 6. The Public Fall. 3 days after the divorce, Brenton Johnson went on local radio and made everything worse. Kara was in her office reviewing quarterly projections when Simone burst in. Turn on KWVR. Your ex-husband is committing professional suicide. Kara put the radio stream on speaker. Brenton's voice filled her office, smooth and practiced. I'm trying to be honest about what happened. Cancel culture has gotten completely out of control. A man makes one mistake and his entire life is destroyed by a vindictive ex-wife who can't handle the truth. The host, Travis something, sounded skeptical. But according to public court records, you had an affair for almost a year and spent over $100,000 of marital money on your girlfriend. That's a mischaracterization. I was exploring an open relationship structure. My wife couldn't handle my honesty about wanting to evolve beyond traditional monogamy, so she weaponized the legal system. Kara's team stared at the phone. She took my home, my livelihood, everything I helped build, all because I was honest about my feelings. You helped build her company? Travis sounded doubtful. Emotionally, yes. I was her rock while she built Apex Consulting. I sacrificed my career advancement to support her dreams. This is how I'm repaid. Simone looked at Kara. Are you responding? No. No? Kara smiled. Not nicely. I'm doing something smarter. She pulled up contacts, found Sarah Mitchell, General Counsel at Palmer Technologies. Dialed. Sarah, it's Kara Young. Have you heard Brenton's radio interview? I'm listening now and composing a cease and desist in my head. Don't. I have a better idea. 20 minutes later, Kara had sent Sarah every piece of evidence from divorce proceedings, court transcripts, expense reports, everything. This is all public record, Kara explained. Court filings are accessible to anyone. I'm just making your job easier. You're giving me ammunition to protect my company's reputation. I'm giving you the truth. What you do with it is your business. Sarah was quiet. We're going to issue a statement. I'm counting on it. By afternoon, Palmer Technologies released a press statement that went viral. Regarding recent public comments by former employee Brenton Johnson, Mr. Johnson was terminated for cause after internal investigation revealed systematic expense report fraud totaling over $30,000. His claims of career sacrifice are contradicted by performance reviews showing consistent mediocrity and multiple failed advancement opportunities due to inadequate work product. Palmer Technologies does not tolerate fraud or employees who blame others for their own professional failures. The internet found it within minutes. By evening, blogger Rachel Stevens had written a detailed breakdown. She'd pulled court records, interviewed people from the restaurant, talked to neighbors, built a comprehensive timeline. Her article was titled, "The Anatomy of Entitlement: How Brenton Johnson Spent 15 Years Blaming Everyone But Himself." It went viral. Kara's phone wouldn't stop. Messages from former clients standing with her, strangers sending support, women sharing their own stories. But there was also a video that made Kara's stomach twist. Brenton, sitting in a car, old Honda with rust spots, parked in a Walmart lot. He looked rough, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing a shirt needing washing. Someone had filmed him sleeping in the front seat, waking disoriented, checking his phone, putting his head in his hands. Simone called. "Did you see the video?" "I saw it." "How do you feel?" Kara thought about that. Should she feel triumph? Guilt? Instead, something more complicated, like watching a building collapse she'd warned people was structurally unsound. "I feel like I'm watching someone hit rock bottom in real time." "Do you feel sorry for him?" "No, I feel nothing, like watching a stranger's life fall apart." Call waiting beeped. Unknown number. "Kara Young?" "Speaking." "This is Riverside Wellness Center. Brenton Johnson checked himself into our facility this morning for voluntary treatment. He listed you as his emergency contact. We need to verify information." Kara's first instinct was to say he'd made a mistake, but something stopped her. "What kind of treatment?" "Our behavioral health program, 30-day residential treatment for depression, anxiety, destructive behavioral patterns." He checked in voluntarily. Kara was quiet. "We're not asking you to be involved. We just need to verify this number is correct and you're willing to be contacted in case of emergency." "I'm his ex-wife. We just got divorced." He indicated that. "But you're still the person he chose. If you'd prefer someone else..." "No, keep the number. But I'm not making decisions or visiting, just a name in a file." "Understood, thank you." Kara hung up. Simone was still on the line. "What was that?" "Brenton's in rehab, not for drugs. For being himself, apparently." "And how do you feel?" "I have no idea." That night, Kara couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about that video, about Brenton sleeping in a car, about him hitting bottom hard enough to check into treatment. She got up at 2, poured wine, sat in darkness. Her phone buzzed. Text from a number she recognized but hadn't saved. "Mariah, I saw the video. I know you're probably celebrating, but I wanted you to know something. I ran into him 2 days ago. He's broken, really broken, not fake broken where men pretend to be sad for sympathy. Actually broken. I thought you should know." Kara stared at the message. She typed, "Why are you telling me this?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Because I work at Riverside Wellness now, as a receptionist. He didn't know I'd be here when he checked in. The look on his face when he saw me. He's not manipulating, he's not scheming, he's just trying to figure out how to be human. I thought you'd want to know." Kara set down her phone, picked up wine, looked at city lights. She felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not pity, just neutral acknowledgement that Brenton was a person who'd made terrible choices and was now facing consequences. She texted back, "Thank you for telling me, but it doesn't change anything." "I know. I just thought you deserved to know he's trying, even if it's too late." Kara finished her wine and went to bed. In the morning, she had breakfast with potential clients from Seattle. In the afternoon, interview with a business magazine. In the evening, dinner with Simone, where she laughed until her sides hurt. Her life moved forward like a river finding its course. And somewhere across town, in a treatment facility, Brenton Johnson started the slow, painful process of becoming someone different. But that wasn't Kara's story anymore. It was just a footnote in someone else's journey. And that felt exactly right. Chapter 7. The Hardest Choice. Kara Young stood outside Riverside Wellness Center on a cold Saturday morning, trying to decide if walking through those doors made her strong or stupid. She'd told herself for 3 days she wasn't doing this. Brenton's recovery was his business. She'd moved on. She was thriving. Her company had just landed the biggest contract in its history. She'd been featured in Forbes. So why was she standing in a parking lot, staring at a building where her ex-husband was trying to figure out how to be human? "You came." Kara turned. Mariah stood there in scrubs, looking different. Less makeup, more substance. Like she'd aged 5 years in 3 months in a good way. "I'm not sure why," Kara admitted. "Because you're curious if change is actually possible. Because part of you wants to believe people can become better. Because you're human and humans are complicated." Mariah gestured toward the building. "He's in group therapy. You can watch through the observation window. He won't know you're there." "Why are you helping me?" "Because you gave me a chance when you didn't have to. You could have destroyed me. Instead, you told me to build something for myself. I got my GED. I'm starting community college in January. I work here, and I'm learning about psychology and human behavior." Mariah smiled sadly. "And because I see him in group every day, and he's not the man I thought he was. He's worse in some ways, better in others, but he's trying. That counts for something, even if it doesn't count for enough." They walked inside together. The facility was nice, not luxury but comfortable. Mariah led her to a hallway with one-way glass, looking into a group therapy room. 8 people sat in a circle. Brenton was one of them. He looked different, thinner, grey in his beard that hadn't been there, but also more present somehow, like he was actually inhabiting his body instead of performing. A woman in her 50s, the therapist, was talking. "Brenton, you wanted to share today. The floor is yours." Brenton took a breath. "I've been thinking about my childhood, about my father leaving, about how my mom tried to make up for it by never saying no, never letting me fail. And I've been thinking about how I weaponized that, how I learned that if I cried or made excuses or blamed other people, someone would always save me." He looked at his hands. "I destroyed my marriage, not because my wife was cold or controlling or any of the things I told myself, because she was successful and I couldn't handle that, because she needed a partner and I wanted a mother, because I'm 42 and I've never stood on my own feet for a single day." Another person in the group spoke. "But you're standing now." "Am I? Or am I just in another safe place where people will tell me it's okay, I'm making progress, I'm doing great?" Brenton's voice cracked. "How do I know if I'm actually changing or if I'm just performing change until someone saves me again?" The therapist leaned forward. "That's the question you'll ask yourself for the rest of your life. And the answer is, you won't know for sure. You'll just have to keep choosing differently every day and hope that eventually the choices become who you are instead of what you're pretending to be." Kara watched him cry. Not manipulative tears. Raw, ugly, genuine grief for the life he'd wasted and people he'd hurt. "I used to think my wife was lucky to have me," Brenton said. "I actually believed that. I thought I was doing her a favor by staying married." "How messed up is that?" "Pretty messed up," another group member said. Dark laughter. "I had a queen and treated her like a servant. I had a partner and turned her into a parent. I had 15 years with someone extraordinary, and I spent all of them making her smaller so I could feel bigger. The therapist spoke quietly. And now? Now I'm alone in a treatment facility, unemployed, possibly facing criminal charges, living off charity from my mother, who finally stopped enabling me. Rock bottom has a very specific feeling. It feels like truth. Kara felt something in her chest loosen. Not forgiveness, not love, just acknowledgement that this was real. He wasn't performing. She turned to Mariah. I need to go. You don't want to stay, talk to him. No. This is his journey. I'm not part of it anymore. Mariah walked her to the exit. At the door, Kara turned. Is he going to make it? I don't know. Some people do. Some learn just enough to become better liars. But he's doing the work, goes to every session, doesn't make excuses, cries a lot. That might mean something. Kara nodded. Thank you for calling me, for letting me see this. Are you glad you came? I'm glad I know he's not faking. What he does with that is his problem. She drove away with more questions than answers. Over the next 3 months, Kara built her empire. Apex Consulting expanded to 4 cities, 20 new employees, speaking at conferences, interviewed for a documentary about women in business. Her life was full in ways it had never been during her marriage. But then, 3 months after watching Brenton in group therapy, she was at a business gala at the Hilton downtown. 500 people, black tie, celebrating the city's top entrepreneurs. Kara was giving the keynote about resilience and rebuilding. Halfway through her speech, she saw him. Brenton, in a server's uniform, carrying champagne glasses through the crowd. Their eyes met across the room. His went wide. Hers stayed neutral. She finished her speech to standing ovation, answered questions, smiled for photos. When she finally extracted herself, he was there, standing off to the side, still holding his tray, waiting. Hi, he said. Hi. Awkward silence. You were amazing up there, Brenton finally said. That speech about turning failure into foundation. I wish I'd understood that 15 years ago. Me too. I'm working catering now. It's honest work. I'm learning humility, my therapist says. He gave a self-deprecating smile. Turns out serving other people is harder than I thought when you've spent your whole life expecting to be served. How long have you been out of treatment? 6 weeks, living with 3 other guys in recovery, working 3 jobs, trying to pay back the money I stole from Palmer. They agreed not to press charges if I made full restitution. Kara studied him. He looked different, worn but present, like he'd been broken down and was rebuilding from scratch. Are you happy? She heard herself ask. No, but I'm honest. That's new. He shifted the tray. I saw you're on billboards now, magazine covers, living the life. I am. I'm glad. You deserved better than what I gave you. Yes, I did. They stood there, 2 people who used to share a life, now strangers. I should get back to work, Brenton said. But Kara, thank you. For what? For not destroying me completely. You could have pressed charges. You could have made sure I never worked in this city again. Instead, you just held me accountable and let me face my own consequences. That gift might have saved my life. He walked away before she could respond. Kara stood there watching him serve champagne to people who didn't see him and felt something complicated. Not love, not pity, just recognition of shared humanity. That night she went home, poured expensive wine, sat on her deck looking at city lights. Her phone rang. Joyce. Did you see him tonight? Joyce asked. How did you know? Because I know you, and I know he's been working that venue. I thought you might cross paths. He looks different. He is different. Not perfect, not healed, but different. Joyce was quiet. He asks about you sometimes, not in a creepy way. Just wants to know if you're okay. I'm more than okay. I'm thriving. I know. I see the magazines. I'm proud of you. But Kara, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you miss him at all? Not the man he was, but the possibility of who he might have become if he'd figured this out earlier. Kara thought about that. Really thought. Sometimes, she admitted, sometimes I miss the idea of partnership, of having someone to share wins with, but I don't miss him specifically. That ship has sailed, burned, and sunk. Fair enough. They talked about other things. Joyce's garden, Kara's new office, Sunday dinner plans. After they hung up, Kara sat with her wine and her thoughts. 6 months ago, she'd been married to a man who'd betrayed her in every way. Now she was free, successful, and occasionally lonely, in the way that comes from having everything except someone to share it with. Was that better? Absolutely. Was it perfect? No. But perfect was a myth sold to people who didn't understand that life was about choosing what you could live with and making peace with everything else, and Kara Young had made her peace. The question was, had Brenton? Chapter 8. The Waiter. 4 months later, Kara walked into the Oregon Business Awards ceremony as the keynote speaker, and the first person she saw serving appetizers was her ex-husband. The event was held at the Governor Hotel. 500 business leaders gathered to celebrate innovation. Kara was receiving Entrepreneur of the Year, recognition that felt surreal and entirely deserved. She wore emerald green, her grandmother's necklace, and confidence that came from building something real. Brenton wore a black vest and white shirt, carrying crab cakes, moving through the crowd like he was invisible. Their eyes met. His widened. Hers stayed steady. He didn't approach, just nodded once, acknowledging shared history, then moved on. Simone appeared at Kara's elbow, champagne in hand. Is that? Yes. Are you okay? I'm more than okay. I'm about to give a speech to 500 people about building a $4 million company. He's serving appetizers. I think I'm fine. But she watched him throughout reception, the way he moved efficiently, professionally, how he said, "You're welcome," when people barely acknowledged him, how he looked tired but present. During dinner, Kara sat at the head table between the mayor and a Fortune 500 CEO. They talked about economic development, tax incentives, the future of business. From her vantage point, she could see Brenton clearing tables, refilling water, doing work that was honest and humble, and completely beneath the man he used to think he was. When it was time for speeches, Kara walked to the podium. 3 years ago, she began, I had a company worth about $500,000. I had a marriage I thought was solid. I had a life that looked successful from the outside, and then everything fell apart in a single night. She had their attention. I learned something important in the aftermath. The people who hurt us most are often the people hurting the most themselves. That doesn't excuse them. It doesn't mean we forgive them or take them back or pretend the hurt didn't happen. But it explains the behavior in a way that lets us move forward without carrying their damage as our own. She glanced at Brenton, who had stopped clearing tables to listen, standing in shadows at the back. I learned that success isn't about never failing. It's about what you build after everything burns down. It's about looking at ruins and seeing foundation. It's about understanding that sometimes you have to lose everything false to find what's real. Her voice got stronger. I learned that being powerful doesn't mean never being vulnerable. It means being vulnerable and still standing. It means getting knocked down and choosing to get back up. It means building something so solid that when storms come, and they will, you bend, but you don't break. The room was silent. So to everyone here tonight facing their own fires, you will survive this. You will rebuild. You will become someone you couldn't have been without the burning. And someday, you'll look back and realize that the worst thing that ever happened to you was also the thing that set you free. Standing ovation. 500 people on their feet. Kara accepted her award, a crystal sculpture that weighed less than the burden she'd carried for 15 years. After the ceremony, she was surrounded by well-wishers, photos, business cards, opportunities. When she finally extracted herself and headed toward coat check, Brenton was there. Standing off to the side, his shift over, wearing a coat that had seen better days. Kara, Brenton. They stood in the marble-floored hallway while people flowed around them. That was an incredible speech, he said quietly. Everything you said about rebuilding after loss, about becoming someone you couldn't have been without the burning. I needed to hear that tonight. You're working catering events now? 3 nights a week. I also work at a non-profit during the day, helping men coming out of treatment find jobs and housing. And I'm taking classes at community college, psychology. Turns out I'm interested in understanding why people do destructive things. Can't imagine why that fascinates me. There was self-awareness in his voice that hadn't been there before. Maybe even humor, dark but genuine. How long since treatment? 4 months out of Riverside. 9 months sober from lying to myself. He gave a rueful smile. Turns out that was my real addiction, not alcohol or drugs, just creating a false reality, convincing myself I was something I wasn't. Kara studied him. He looked like he'd been taken apart and put back together. Not quite the same. Worn, but functional. Are you doing okay? She heard herself ask. Some days. Other days I wake up in a room I share with 2 other guys and remember I'm 43. Unemployed in any meaningful sense, possibly still facing charges, estranged from everyone I used to know. Those days are harder. But you're showing up. It's all I know how to do now. Show up, do the work, try to be a little less terrible than I was yesterday. He looked at her directly. I saw your company made the Inc. 5,000 list, 4 million in revenue, 60 employees. You built an empire while I was busy destroying my life. I'm proud of you. That probably means nothing, but I wanted you to know. Kara felt something shift in her chest, not forgiveness, more like closure. Thank you. I'm not trying to get back into your life, Brenton said quickly. I'm not delusional enough to think there's any path back from what I did. I just wanted you to know that your success isn't despite me. It was always who you were. I was just dead weight you were carrying. He pulled an envelope from his jacket, slightly crumpled. I wrote you a letter a few weeks ago. My therapist suggested it as part of amends. You don't have to read it. You don't have to respond. But it explains where I am now, what I'm doing to change, how I'm trying to become someone different. If you want to know, it's there. If you don't, that's fine too. He handed her the envelope, then stepped back. I should go. My bus leaves in 20 minutes. He smiled sadly. Yeah, I take the bus now. Turns out when you've stolen from your employer and wrecked your credit, car loans are hard to get. Brenton, he turned back. I hope you make it. I hope you become the person you're trying to become. Not for me, just in general. Thank you. That means more than you know. He walked away, disappearing into Portland night, leaving Kara holding an envelope she didn't know if she'd ever open. She went home to her beautiful house, poured wine that cost more than Brenton probably made in a week, sat on her couch looking at the envelope. She didn't open it that night, or the next, or the night after. For 3 weeks it sat on her kitchen counter, a question mark made of paper. Then, one Saturday morning while drinking coffee and reading news, she opened it. The letter was 6 pages, handwritten in Brenton's familiar scrawl. Not a love letter, not a plea. A detailed accounting of his life since treatment, therapy schedule, classes, jobs, amends he was making, a plan for paying back every cent, a realistic timeline for rebuilding that didn't include shortcuts or excuses. And at the end, I'm not writing this to win you back. I'm writing this so you know that your pain wasn't for nothing. I'm becoming the man I should have been 15 years ago, not for you, for me, but because of you. Because you held me accountable when everyone else enabled me, because you chose yourself when I gave you every reason not to, because you showed me what actual strength looks like. Thank you for that, even if it came at the cost of everything else. Kara read it twice, then filed it away in a drawer. She didn't respond, but she didn't throw it away either. And somehow, that felt like exactly the right amount of closure. Chapter 9. The letter. 6 months after receiving Brenton's letter, Kara Young sat in her corner office watching rain streak down windows, trying to figure out why success felt so lonely. Apex Consulting now had offices in 4 cities, 83 employees, contracts worth $7 million. Her face was on the cover of Pacific Business magazine. She'd achieved everything she'd set out to achieve, so why did her penthouse apartment feel empty? Her phone buzzed. Jamaica. Coffee? I have news about your ex. They met at their usual spot, a cafe that made coffee strong enough to fuel small revolutions. Jamaica slid into the booth looking uncomfortable. So I ran into Brenton last week, at the non-profit where he works. And? He's been there for 8 months now, started as a volunteer, now he's assistant director. They help men transitioning out of incarceration and treatment find jobs. He's apparently really good at it. Cara sipped her latte. That's nice. Good for him. Cara, he came by our office, Palmer Technologies. Walked right into Richard Palmer's office and handed him a check for $31,000. Full restitution for everything he stole, plus interest. That got Cara's attention. Richard was shocked, asked how he got the money. Want to know what he said? Tell me. He said he'd been working 3 jobs for 9 months and living in a room that costs $400 a month. He saved every extra penny, said he couldn't move forward with his life until he'd paid back what he'd taken. Jamaica showed Cara a photo. Brenton in Palmer's lobby, shaking hands with Richard. He looked different, older, but also younger, like he'd aged into himself. Richard was so impressed he offered him a job, entry-level but a real job with benefits. Brenton said he needed to think about it. Can you believe that? Did he take it? No. He turned it down, said his work at the non-profit mattered more than money or status, that he'd spent his whole life chasing titles and salary, and it made him miserable. Now he makes $38,000 a year helping people, and he's happier than he's ever been. Cara processed that information while her coffee went cold. Why are you telling me this? Jamaica looked at her with something like pity. Because I see you, Cara. You're wildly successful and completely alone. You work 16-hour days. You haven't dated anyone in the year since your divorce. You're building an empire, and I'm worried you're forgetting to build a life. I have a life. Do you? When's the last time you laughed so hard you couldn't breathe? When's the last time you did something just because it made you happy, not because it moved your business forward? Cara didn't have an answer. I'm not saying you should take Brenton back. I'm saying maybe you should ask yourself if you're running towards something or away from something. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who's terrified to stop moving. Because stopping means feeling things you don't want to feel. Jamaica left money for coffee and walked out, leaving Cara sitting alone with observations that cut too close. That weekend, Cara did something she hadn't done in years. She took a day off. No meetings, no emails, no strategic planning. She went to Powell's and wandered for 3 hours, buying books she'd never read. Had lunch at a food cart and didn't check her phone once. Walked along the river and watched kayakers and thought about nothing in particular, and she felt lighter. On Sunday, she went to dinner at Joyce's house, something she'd been doing monthly. Joyce made pot roast like always. You look tired, Joyce said, passing potatoes. I am tired. Then rest. I don't know how anymore. Joyce set down her fork. Do you know what Brenton told me last week? I'm sure you're going to tell me. He said the best thing I ever did for him was kick him out, that I should have done it 20 years earlier, that consequences saved his life when love couldn't. Joyce's eyes were bright with unshed tears. He's different now, Cara. Really different. Not perfect. Still figuring things out. But different. Jamaica told me. About the restitution. About the job offer he turned down. Did she tell you about the letter he wrote to everyone he hurt? Gerald got one, Tyler got one, his former boss got one. He spent 3 months writing individual, specific apologies to every person he'd wronged. No excuses, just accountability. Cara helped clear dishes, needing something to do with her hands. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you're holding yourself so tight, you're going to break. Because you've spent a year proving you don't need anyone, and maybe it's time to ask if not needing is the same as being happy. Joyce touched Cara's hand. I'm not saying take him back. I'm saying maybe talk to him. See who he is now. You might be surprised. Or I might be disappointed. That's the risk of being human. We're all disappointing eventually. Kara drove home through streets that felt familiar but foreign. When she got home, there was a message on her voicemail from Sarah Mitchell at Palmer Technologies. Hi, Kara. I hope this isn't overstepping, but I wanted you to know something. Brenton came by our office last week to make full restitution. He didn't have to. The statute of limitations had run out, and we'd decided not to pursue charges, but he insisted on paying back every cent with interest. I've been in corporate law for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like it. I thought you'd want to know. It doesn't change what happened between you two, but it says something about who he's trying to become. Kara deleted the message, poured wine, pulled out Brenton's letter from 9 months ago. She read it again, this time seeing things she'd missed. The specific details of change, the brutal honesty about failures, the absence of excuses. She thought about Jamaica's words, about building an empire, but forgetting to build a life. She thought about Joyce's observation, about holding herself so tight she might break. She thought about the fact that she'd achieved everything she wanted professionally and felt emptier than when she was married to a man who'd betrayed her. On Monday morning, Kara did something impulsive. She looked up the non-profit where Brenton worked, New Beginnings Resource Center. She drove there during lunch, parked across the street, watched. The building was humble. People came and went, some looking rough, some looking hopeful, all looking like they were trying to rebuild from broken pieces. After 20 minutes, she saw him. Brenton walked out with a younger man, showing him something on a phone. Job listings, probably. He looked engaged, present, like he actually cared about this stranger's future. The young man said something that made Brenton laugh, a real laugh, not the performed laugh she remembered from networking parties. He looked happy, not successful by the world's standards, but happy in a way that came from purpose instead of profit. Kara drove back to her office, sat in her car in the parking garage, and cried for the first time in a year. Not for Brenton, not for their marriage, for herself. For the realization that she'd been so busy winning that she'd forgotten what she was winning for. That night, she did something she'd never done. She closed her laptop at 6 p.m., turned off her phone, took a bath with expensive products she'd bought months ago and never used. She let herself feel the loneliness she'd been running from, and it didn't destroy her. The next morning, her assistant knocked. "There's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's important." "Who?" "Brenton Johnson, your ex-husband." Kara's heart did something complicated. "Send him in." Brenton walked in looking nervous, carrying a folder. Jeans and a button-down, nothing expensive, everything clean. "I'm sorry to show up unannounced," he said, "but I needed to tell you something, and I was afraid if I called, you wouldn't take it." "I'm listening." He set the folder on her desk. "This is documentation of every step I've taken in the last year. Therapy records with permission, proof of restitution to Palmer, letters from the non-profit, completion certificates from classes. I'm not showing you this to impress you or win you back. I'm showing you this because you deserve to know that your decision to hold me accountable changed my life." Kara opened the folder, page after page of evidence he'd been doing the work. "Why are you here, Brenton?" "Because I ran into Jamaica last week, and she mentioned you looked tired, and I realized I haven't properly thanked you for destroying my life so I could build a better one." Despite herself, Kara almost smiled. "You're thanking me for divorcing you. I'm thanking you for refusing to enable me, for being strong enough to walk away, for showing me what consequences looked like." He sat down across from her without being invited, but not in an entitled way. "I was a terrible husband. I'm not going to make excuses or pretend I was just confused. I was selfish and entitled, and I treated you like support staff instead of a partner." "Yes, you did. And you would be completely justified in never speaking to me again. In fact, that would probably be the smart choice. I'm not here to change your mind about that." "Then why are you here?" Brenton looked out her window at the city spread below. Because I'm happy now. Really happy. Not successful by the standards I used to have, but happy in a way I never was when I had money and status and a wife I didn't deserve. And I realized you deserved to know that letting me go was the right choice. For both of us. Kara sat with that. You came here to tell me you're happy. I came here to tell you that I hope you're happy too, because I see your face on magazine covers, and I wonder if you're building an empire or building a fortress. And I know it's not my business anymore, but I spent 15 years taking from you. The least I can do is give you one piece of wisdom I learned the hard way, which is, success without connection is just expensive loneliness. I know because I'm living on $38,000 a year and I'm happier than I ever was making 6 figures and being miserable. Find someone to share your empire with, Kara. You deserve that. He stood up. That's all I came to say. I'll leave you alone now. I hope you find whatever makes you as happy as I've found helping people who remind me of who I used to be. He walked toward the door. Brenton. He turned back. Coffee, Thursday, 2 p.m., that place on 5th Street near the park. Why? Because I'm curious who you've become. That's not a reconciliation. It's not a second chance. It's just coffee between two people who used to know each other. He smiled, and it was different from any smile she'd seen before. Genuine, earned, real. I'll be there. After he left, Kara sat in her office for an hour, not working, just thinking. She called Simone. I just agreed to have coffee with Brenton. Are you insane? Maybe. But Jamaica was right. I've been so busy proving I don't need anyone that I forgot to ask if I want anyone. And I'm not saying I want him, but I want to see who he is now, without anger or bitterness. And if he's still the same manipulative jerk, then I finish my coffee and walk away. But if he's actually different, maybe that's worth knowing. Not for romantic reasons, just for human reasons. You're a better person than me. No, I'm just tired of carrying anger that doesn't serve me anymore. Thursday came. Kara arrived early, ordered tea, claimed a table by the window. Brenton arrived exactly on time, carrying nothing but himself. They sat, awkward, two people with shared history and separate futures. So, Kara said, tell me about your life. For the next 2 hours, they talked, really talked, not about their marriage or the divorce, about who they were now, what they'd learned, where they were going. Brenton told her about the men he helped, the ones who reminded him of himself, the ones who needed someone to believe they could change. Kara told him about the pressure of success, the loneliness of leadership, the way achievement felt hollow without anyone to share it with. I'm not suggesting we try again, Brenton said as they prepared to leave. I'm not delusional. What I did can't be undone, but maybe we could be friends. Eventually, not now, but someday. Kara thought about that. Ask me in 6 months. If you're still doing the work, if you're still the person you're trying to be, then maybe. But Brenton, if this is manipulation, if this is a long game to win me back, walk away now. I won't survive being betrayed by you twice. It's not manipulation, I promise you that. This is just me trying to be a human being who makes amends and moves forward. They parted on the sidewalk, two people walking in different directions toward separate lives. And for the first time in a year, Kara felt like she could breathe, not because Brenton was back in her life, but because she'd faced him without anger and walked away without bitterness. That felt like freedom. Real, earned, hard-won freedom. Chapter 10. The Tough Reunion. 9 months after coffee became a regular Thursday afternoon ritual, Kara Young invited Brenton Johnson to her apartment for dinner. Not a date, not a reconciliation, just dinner between two people who'd become something like friends through careful, deliberate effort. He arrived at 7, carrying wildflowers he'd clearly picked himself from a garden, mismatched blooms that probably came from the park. I know you can afford better, he said, handing them to her, but these felt more honest. She put them in a vase. They looked perfect in her minimalist living room. They'd had coffee every Thursday for 9 months. Sometimes they talked about heavy things, Sometimes they laughed about stupid television. Sometimes they sat in comfortable silence because neither needed to fill every moment with words anymore. Kara had watched him carefully during those months, looking for signs of the old Brenton. The manipulation, excuses, entitlement. She'd found none of it. Instead, she'd found a man who showed up consistently, kept promises, talked about failures without minimizing them. And slowly, carefully, something had shifted. Not love, not yet, but possibility. "I made dinner," Kara said, leading him to her dining room. Brenton looked genuinely shocked. "You cooked?" "Don't get excited. It's pasta. But I made it myself instead of ordering from that place on 10th. They ate and talked about their weeks. His stories from the non-profit were always both heartbreaking and hopeful. Hers from Apex were about strategy and growth, but increasingly about people and purpose. After dinner, they sat on her balcony with wine, looking at city lights. "I need to tell you something," Kara said. Brenton tensed slightly. "I've been thinking about us, about what we are now and what we could be." "Kara, let me finish." She took a breath. "You're not the man I married. That man was entitled and selfish. You're someone different, someone who's done the work to become better. I'm trying." "You've done more than try. You've succeeded. You're not perfect. You still have moments where I see the old patterns trying to resurface, but you catch them now. You correct them. That matters." She turned to face him. "I'm not ready to say we should try again. I'm not ready to trust you with my heart, but I'm ready to say I'm open to the possibility. Someday, if you keep doing the work." Brenton looked like he might cry. "I'm not asking you back because I need you," Kara continued. "I don't need anyone. I've built a life that's completely mine. But I'm asking if you're interested in building something new with me. Not a return to what we had. Something completely different. Something healthier." "What would that look like?" "Therapy. Couples therapy, non-negotiable for at least 2 years. Complete financial transparency. You maintain your own career and life. We date like new people. And Brenton, one lie, one betrayal, one moment of reverting to who you were, and I'm gone forever. No second chances after this second chance." Brenton set down his wine glass. "Yes. Yes, what?" "Yes to all of it. Every condition, every boundary, every requirement." He looked at her with clear eyes. "I don't deserve this chance. I know that. But if you're offering it, I'll spend every day earning it." "I need to be very clear about something," Kara said. "I'm doing this because I want to see if you can be the partner I deserve, not the partner you were, the actual partner I need. Can you do that?" "I don't know, but I want to try. And if I can't, I'll tell you honestly instead of faking it." They sat with that. "So what now?" Brenton asked. "Now we start slow. Coffee on Thursdays, dinner once a week. We check in constantly. We're honest even when it's uncomfortable. And we see if this version of us works better than the old version. I can do slow. Can you? Because the old you would have pushed for more, faster. The old me was an idiot. The new me knows that anything worth having is worth working for." Kara smiled. "Good answer." 6 months later, they were still dating. Slowly, carefully, like two people learning to trust after betrayal. Brenton got promoted to director at the non-profit. Kara's company went international. They supported each other without competing or feeling threatened. Joyce hosted Sunday dinners again. It felt different this time. Less obligation, more choice. Simone remained skeptical, but admitted Brenton seemed genuinely changed. "I'm watching him. One wrong move, and I'm ending him." On a Tuesday evening in May, Brenton asked Kara to walk in the park where they'd had their first post-divorce coffee. They walked in comfortable silence until he stopped near a bench. "I need to ask you something," he said. Kara's heart rate picked up. "Okay." Brenton got down on one knee. Kara felt panic and hope and terror all at once, but he didn't pull out a ring. "I'm not proposing marriage," he said, looking up. "I'm not ready for that, and neither are you. What I'm proposing is this. Let me keep showing up. Let me keep doing the work. Let me keep being the man who deserves to stand beside you, not as your husband yet, but as your partner, your equal, your choice. He stood up. I'm asking if you'll let me keep proving myself, for however long it takes. And someday, if you decide I've earned it, maybe you'll ask me to marry you, because you deserve to be the one making that choice. Kara felt something in her chest crack open. That's the proposal? That's the proposal. Will you let me keep trying? She studied him. This man who'd destroyed her life and then rebuilt his own. This man who'd learned humility through consequences. This man who'd become someone worth knowing through years of consistent effort. I'm not ready to say yes to marriage, she said, but I'm ready to say yes to possibility, to seeing where this goes, to building something new from broken pieces. That's all I'm asking for. But Brenton, if you mess this up, if you lie or cheat or revert to who you were, I'm done. Forever, no more chances. Do you understand that? I understand, and I won't mess it up. They walked back to her apartment holding hands, not like they used to, like they were beginning something instead of continuing something. That weekend they had dinner at Joyce's. Mariah was there too, now in her second year studying social work. So are you two back together? Mariah asked. We're figuring it out, Kara said. That's not an answer. It's the only answer we have right now. Joyce watched them, eyes bright with hope. After dinner, Kara helped with dishes. Brenton had finally learned how to properly wash them. You're really giving him another chance, Joyce said quietly. I'm giving us both a chance to see if we can build something better than what we had. And if it doesn't work, then I'll walk away knowing I tried. That feels better than walking away wondering what if. 3 months later, they were still together, still in therapy, still choosing each other daily. On a Sunday in December, exactly 2 years after Brenton's restaurant proposal that ended their marriage, Kara invited him to Marcello's. They sat at a different table, new memories instead of old ones. Do you remember what happened here? She asked. Every second. It's the day I destroyed the best thing in my life. It's also the day I started building a better life. The day I chose myself. She reached across, took his hand. I'm not ready to remarry. Not yet. But I'm ready to say I love the man you've become. Not the man you were. The man you chose to be through years of hard work. Brenton's eyes were bright. I love you too. The woman you were and the woman you are. I'm sorry it took me losing you to understand what I had. Some people need to lose everything to find what matters. They finished dinner and walked through downtown Portland, through streets where Kara had built her empire and Brenton had rebuilt himself. Are you happy? He asked. Kara thought about that, about her company thriving, about her relationship healing, about her life finally hers to shape. I'm getting there, she said. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm closer than I've ever been. And this time, I'm choosing it instead of falling into it. And if I mess up again, then I'll walk away. But this time, it won't break me, because I know who I am without you. That's the difference. They stood on the Burnside Bridge, looking at city lights reflected in dark water. Thank you, Brenton said quietly. For what? For being strong enough to demand better, for refusing to settle, for showing me what real love looks like. Not love that enables, love that requires excellence. Kara leaned into him, feeling peace. Some reunions aren't about going back, she said. They're about building something completely new from broken pieces, and sometimes, just sometimes, the best revenge is choosing love on your own terms. They walked home through Portland streets that held both their past and future, two people who'd been destroyed and rebuilt, learning to trust again one careful day at a time. And if it didn't work out, Kara would survive. She'd survived worse. But if it did work, if they could build something real from ruins, that would be a story worth telling. A tough reunion that earned its happily ever after through years of consistent work instead of convenient forgiveness. And that felt exactly right.